Imagine this: a small nation in Southeast Asia, poor, divided, and scarred by colonial rule. And yet, this very nation is stood against two of the world's greatest powers, first France and then the United States. How did Vietnam, a country of farmers and villages, resist the might of modern armies, endless bombs, and superpower technology? This is the story of the Vietnam War, a war that changed the world forever. The roots of conflict. To understand the Vietnam War, we must first ask, where did it begin? Vietnam, for decades, was under French colonial rule, but the people longed for freedom. Out of this struggle rose a revolutionary leader, Ho Chi Minh. To the Vietnamese, he was the voice of independence. To the West, he was a communist threat. So the question was set: would Vietnam belong to its people or remain a pawn in the great game of global powers? The First Indochina War, 1946 to 1954. First clash came with France. For 8 long years, Vietnam fought a bloody guerrilla war against its colonial rulers. Villagers hid fighters, forests became battlefields, and determination replaced weapons. And then came 1954, the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. Against all odds, the Vietnamese forces surrounded and crushed the French garrison. Shockwaves spread across the world. France was out. But Vietnam was far from free, a nation divided. After the French defeat, Vietnam was split. The North, led by Ho Chi Minh, was communist. The South, backed by America, was anti-communist. Two governments, two ideologies, and one fragile land. Could a nation divided survive, or was war inevitable? America enters the war. By the 1960s, the United States feared the spread of communism. They called it the domino theory. If Vietnam fell, they believed all of Asia would follow. So America stepped in. Advisors, then troops, then bombs. At its peak, over 500,000 American soldiers were in Vietnam. They had helicopters, jets, napalm, and endless supplies. And yet, they faced an enemy that refused to give up: the Viet Cong strategy. The Viet Cong and North Vietnamese had no air force, no navy, and little modern equipment. But what they did have was determination. They dug tunnels, stretching miles beneath the ground. They set ambushes in jungles. They used the land itself as a weapon. They fought, disappeared, and struck again. For every village destroyed, 10 more resisted. For every soldier killed, another took his place. It was not just a war of guns, it was a war of will. The war escalates. America responded with overwhelming firepower. Operation Rolling Thunder unleashed millions of bombs. Villages were burned, forests set ablaze with chemical weapons like Agent Orange. But here's the question: how do you defeat a people fighting on their own land for their own survival? America could destroy cities, but not the spirit of Vietnam. The turning point: Tet Offensive, 1968. Then came 1968, the Tet Offensive. On the Vietnamese New Year, the Viet Cong launched a massive surprise attack across South Vietnam. Though militarily costly, it shocked the world. Americans watching on television saw the war in a new light. Could victory really be possible, or had the superpower stepped into a war it could never win? America loses faith. Back home, Protests filled the streets. Students, veterans, even ordinary families demanded an end to the war. The body bags kept arriving, but victory never came. The question grew louder with every day. Why were young Americans dying in a land so far from home? Slowly, America began to lose faith in its mission. The withdrawal, 1973. By 1973, America had had enough. Peace talks in Paris ended direct US involvement. The superpower withdrew, leaving South Vietnam to stand alone. But without American support, South Vietnam was fragile and its collapse was only a matter of time. The fall of Saigon, 1975. On April 30, 1975, tanks of the North Vietnamese army rolled into Saigon. Helicopters evacuated the last Americans from rooftops. The war was over, and in that moment, the impossible had happened. A small, poor nation had resisted and defeated a global superpower. Vietnam was united, but the cost was staggering. The human cost. Nearly 3 million Vietnamese died, cities were destroyed, forests poisoned, and generations scarred. Over 0 Americans lost their lives, and countless more carried invisible wounds. So we must ask, was it worth it? What did this war truly achieve? The Vietnam War remains one of history's greatest lessons. It showed that guns and bombs cannot always crush the human spirit. It proved that even the strongest nations can stumble when they underestimate the will of the people. And so, we are left with a haunting truth. In Vietnam, the world's mightiest armies fought, but it was the determination of a small nation that won.